considering the high number of children now turning to online resources for learning while school is out, is there anything extra that should be done to either keep them safe or additional resources to teach them how to stay safe? And also considering that most parents are generally at the same skill level of teachers in IT, you know, couldn't this be a really serious security issue going forward?
I think, first of all, the opportunities there for young people to be abused online, really, because you've got them at home. They're not able to go out. Very few are still at school. And the people who are wanting to target them know that.
Yeah.
So therefore, they're living in the same world. So I think the thing to think about, or two or three things to think about, is one, you can get some really good software now that will allow parents to monitor their kids' usage of the internet. I remember one in particular. I think, you know, when a young person, it can monitor, it can look at, it's got an algorithm to look at whether a conversation online looks to be normal or abnormal. Mm-hmm. So there is a certain rhythm and grammar, etc., to a dialogue between two young people of a similar age. But it is different when someone's trying to mimic being an adult, being a young person.
Yes.
Yeah, say that is a wrong conversation, but let's assume it is, then a warning will go to the parent, and the parent's got a chance to check it out. And if this happens more than a couple of times, then in fact the line is shut down altogether. So that's a very clear block. So I think that's one thing. Look at some good software that's around. It's not expensive, but I think it's pretty effective. The second thing, the old things still work. You know, if you allow your young people to operate their computers in a private space, which they will argue for, we all have, then it may be that wrong things happen. Yeah. So you help encourage them to have their computers on view in the dining room, in the sitting room, you know, not tucked away in a place that things might be happening that neither you nor they would want to happen. So I think your overall observation by parents or those who are looking after them is a good thing. There's nothing to stop a parent reviewing the history of a young person's action online. I mean, it depends on what your relationship is with your children, but it seems to me that if it's all done openly and transparently, then all you're doing is for us to protect them, not to, I would argue, not to intrude into privacy. And it depends on their age, doesn't it? I mean, you treat a 17-year-old different, I guess, to an 11-year-old. And I think if you, as you would deal with managers, you give them the right support or the right challenge, depending on which category they're in. I think it's perfectly okay when it's your internet line, you're caring for them, usually, and best that you display that in those sorts of ways, I would say. But be aware that it's a risky time at the moment for the reasons I said at the beginning.
Yeah, and you mentioned cybersecurity before, but do you think there's more that could be done by the police and government to protect businesses, given and particularly sort of advice going out now with people working from home? So you mentioned the invoice issue and phishing and so on, but I think people are far more vulnerable now because of everything, all the processes really quite suddenly being taken to their home environment.
I think the police and others could do more. There are doing some things, but I think the scale of the task overwhelms them at times at the moment. So you've got the part of GCHQ that operates in London, which is there to support big businesses if they get particular attacks and gives good advice for them. So we saw the talk attacks, and various other attacks have been over the last few years. So that sort of big operation is in place. There are some counter-terrorist liaison officers who will go out to any business and look at how they protect themselves against general terrorism, but also against cyber attack, to give them advice about their processes. But I think one of the big things I've found in the past that's been really powerful has been where peer groups help each other. Yeah. The insurance industry are particularly good at it. So they're prepared to share a lot of their data on the grounds that the risk of sharing it of commercial risk is outweighed by the benefit they gain from not having fraudulent claims.
Excellent, yeah.
If you've got the same person making the same claim to different organisations, that's not helpful for anyone. So they share an awful lot of data. So I think the sharing of data where you can is vital. And the second thing is to have as many opportunities. And I've seen this, some of the banks I've worked with. Every day there's a long list. Well, actually, that's not fair, actually. a list, let's say, of no more than 10 things where that day they've been attacked, and it gives the detail. You know, just
Right.
say that we got this invoice, we got this telephone call linked to an email or wherever it has to be, because it will click for people. Either they will remember that method, and I think the more you make it a story rather than we got an HTTP / semicolon, yeah, that sort of approach. I don't think I can't remember. But if someone says, you know, we got an invoice for something we only sell 10 of a week for about 1,000, that may be a bit suspicious, but the invoice looked genuine. So I presume some sold more that week. And in this crisis, I presume we're selling more toilet rolls. Well, that'll never happen, will it? But you know what I mean? But, you know, I think if you are able to share stories as well as the technical, the IT department can deal with the technical. But I think how you help your people to understand what the threat is in detail, in a story detail, and then what they can do to avoid it, I think the better we are. Just talking generically about cyber attacks, I think can sort of blind people to things. Because you've always got to remember, at the end of the day, at the other end of that cyber attack, there was somebody called a human being. And that human being will have the normal motives for crime: greed, theft, you know, malicious damage, you know, the same sort of things, which, and they are not, all right, there are some state actors who've got very large numbers of cyber attackers, but most of these are singletons who are working alone, who can have multiple attacks, but only need a 0.1% return.